Hooray, time for another video. This time around, earlier I posted a kind of a sample of this one. What this is a communications array that I've been working on. This one is actually the first prototype, and I showed you kind of 360 of this one before, and that I did a little preview video earlier this week that had a 360 degree view of it, so I'm not going to go into too much detail on it other than to kind of show you a few of the features. So it's the design. It's pretty straightforward. Added some minor detail on the prototype one. This one is actually, as you can tell, it's a prototype. I actually kind of messed up when I was measuring on that part, so there's a little bit of a difference. This one I actually went through and cut down a piece of rod so you could actually tilt it up and down. Design turned out pretty good. I mean, I had started to put some detail down at the bottom, which probably won't show up. There it is, shows up. But the problem with it is it's still a little plain. It was more to get the scale right, and I think I got the size pretty good. So it's like if I compare it to, you know, like an orc, it's got a pretty decent size to it. If we grab, for example, see, I have this on my desk for another project. This is that, and I'll try and back out a little. There we go. That's one of those statues that they released not too long ago. So I mean, it's got a pretty decent size to it. It's not super huge, but it's got a nice size. So went through, did that, and it turned out pretty good. Then I was like, okay, well, let's beef it up a little and get the rest of them done. So first thing I did was this part by itself. And I'll try and get back in here on this one. There we go. So you can see this time around what I did is I've gone through and I've actually engraved these a little bit deeper, and I actually reversed the pattern from the original, so it gives you a little bit different look. Put them both up there side by side. There we go. Size-wise, it didn't change. It's still the same overall size. It's just I added more details. So you can see how on the base of this one there isn't really, and actually let me use something other than my fingers so you can get a little more range. But you can see down here how this is all flat and empty. I actually added a little bit of texture in this area. The engraving on the front is a little bit deeper so it shows up. If I turn this one sideways like the other one, you can see that I added some more lattice type structure to make it look a little bit less chunky. I also added some holes in the back, and I'm going to go ahead and get this other one out of the way so you can see those. So I added some holes and other things. This one I did drill it for adding a rod, but you'll notice I didn't put a rod in this one. This one I just glued in place. Seeing how this one is still, this is about 90% of the way done. But because this is going to be one that I'm doing for photos more than anything else, I really didn't need to add in that extra little piece. Plus, I didn't feel like, you know, playing around with the rod, so I made sure I got the rod to fit and have enough resistance so that it didn't flop up and down. That takes some playing with, and I just really didn't feel like doing it. So, but that was kind of the base piece of it, and it looked nice. The problem was it's sitting directly on top of stuff, so I was like, well, let's do something about that. So I did this. What this is a little base for it, which will raise it up a little bit, give it a little bit more height and a little bit more style. I added some details on it so you can see where it would be like, that would be like kind of a grating or a grate or something there, and then I have, you know, two little holes on the end where I could, I guess if you wanted to take this even further, you could attach pipes and those sorts of things. Of course, my standard, everything has to have a magnet. Wargamers love magnets. I'm a wargamer. So, and I put another magnet in this one, so this actually can now rotate, which is kind of nice. It just adds an extra feel to it. Is it required for anything? No, but it is kind of nice. The other thing also is adding the base. Notice how I've got these second notches here. What I had done, and these probably, they may stay on the final design, they may not, I don't know. I'm thinking on taking them out because I don't know if I really like it. I had little pieces like this that set out. So I had these little pieces that set out on the edges to just kind of cover up this bottom box some. But the problem is when you put those in, because this bottom piece is the same size, or the box is a little bit large because I wanted to make sure I had a nice base for it. The two hit, and you have to put them at an angle, and I didn't like really that gap that you get when you put them at an angle. So I think that's going to be something I'm going to just do a minor change on. But it's kind of nice. Well, when I got done with this one and looked, I had a ton of extra space on the laser design. And that when I'm cutting with the laser, most of my projects start off with a 9 by 12 or a 9 by 14 sheet of material. And in cutting this one out, I had only used like a 4-inch or 3.5-inch wide by like 10-inch long strip. So I had a ton of extra material around it, which is fine. I mean, for me, if I'm doing them one at a time, because then I don't use as much material, and I could actually do 2 of them out of one piece. And really, if I go for real optimization on it, I could actually get 3 or 4 out of one piece. But the problem with this is it's still, I mean, this is a little low to set on the battlefield as is. You can set it on the battlefield as is, but it doesn't really add much to your battlefield. You get a very flat one. It works great sitting on top of other terrain, but what if you want it to work by itself? So, using all of that slack space that I had, I did this, and I'm going to have to back up the camera a little bit more. Hooray. So I did this one. What this is another stand. In this case, it's actually just a larger version of the same base. Made it a little bit larger, and did a nice thin wood tower. So you've got a fairly chunky profile for the uprights that matches from either side, so that the thickness on this side and the thickness on this side are the same. And then you have this cross structure. And the cross structure, you'll notice they go opposite directions. So this one's in front and this one's in back. So that it gives you kind of a structure that actually gives you something visually versus them all matching. Placed a magnet on top of it, and we'll pop this one off here. And now I've got that one at the top. And yes, I know the magnets don't match. Well, the reason for the bigger magnet on this one was I actually ran out of the smaller. So I'm gonna have to redo. I'm gonna have to pop that one off of there and either drill out and put a larger magnet in so I can get it flush, or just leave it. I mean, it does wobble a little bit, but that's more of me in building it than it is the actual design. Just I didn't have enough parts to do it the way that I had hoped. So that magnet is kind of temporary for right now. It's glued on there, but it's coming back off. So that's really the basic design with it. Height-wise, you can see, and I'm going to come down here to the base. I mean, it's a pretty big distance. So you've got enough space around the base of it that you could actually use it as terrain, as cover, what have you. But you get a nice tall piece. The tower itself, the vertical tower, is I think 4.5 inches. So I've got 4.5 inches worth of height there, plus the dish on top. So you're talking a good 7-inch tall piece, which is nice. It fits the battlefield. It's going to give you some vertical interest in your battlefield. A lot of battlefields don't really have anything vertical. This one would actually give you that vertical distance. All in all, it's a pretty neat design. Go ahead and take this one back, set him back down here so you can see him down in the middle. But that is the progress on the communications tower. I still have, like I said, some more work to do on it, but the finished design is pretty much going to look like this. There may be some minor refinements. So, like I said, these little notches will probably end up coming out on it, and the magnet changes on the tower. But beyond that, that's really it for the final thing. I even added and it's probably won't be able to see this in the camera, but you see that little ring there? I even added as if there was a cone at the end of it, just for something a little different. So, anyway, that's where it stands on the wonderful communications tower. If you got any questions or anything, go ahead and send me an email or write something in the comments. And next video will hopefully be the painted final version of this one. And I'm going to try and, who knows, show it sitting on top of the blockhouse so you can see exactly how it's going to fit together. There is even some add-ons for the blockhouse piece that may show up in the next video. So, Take care. Talk to you later.